Hey there folks, welcome to our next video, which is all about working with faces and doing the face half project. So to get you started, I've got a few things I want to discuss with you, and then I'm going to share with you how this is going to work. All right, so looking at this image right here, there are certain parts of the face that align in very specific ways. So the first thing is, if we're looking at this image right here, and by the way, I'll get this scanned and put this online for you, and everyone in class is going to get a copy of this. If you're looking at the face, you can actually divide it up into thirds. So if you're looking at the face, between the chin and under the nose would be 1/3. Under the nose to about the brow line, just above the eyes, would be the 2nd third. And then from here up to really where the hairline starts is the 3rd third. So you can divide the face into thirds this way. And what's nice about it is that you'll always know that part of it is going to be where under the nose is. So it's a really nice way to start aligning features. And if you're the kind of person like me who likes to start with a circle, if you notice, the circular part of the head where I'm making pretend circles here, the bottom is where the nose is going to be, and the top is actually not going to be the hairline, it's going to be where the top of the head is. Now, when we look at the face, and these are some other examples here of how you can make facial alignments, typically the eyes, the width of an eye is the same as the width in between your eyes. So you can actually fit a 3rd eye right here, which is kind of interesting. The sides of your nose are going to come up right to the corner of your eye, and the center of your eye lines up with the corner of your mouth. Now, if someone is smiling or frowning or their head's tilted in a different direction, some of these will be a tiny bit skewed as you're drawing. However, the facial alignments, that always stays the same. Okay, but like I said, you know, if it's not going to change the face, it's just your how you're looking at the face, your point of view, which could change things a little bit. The ears, typically, in real life, if you could pop off your ear, it would actually be the same size as your nose. Typically, ears, if the person is level-headed and they're looking straight at you, the underside of the nose is going to be just about where that ear lines up. You can see that here. And typically the top of the ear is about where your brow line is. Okay. Now, the second side has some great details of some different features and different things that folks typically find a little bit tricky to draw. When it comes to eyes, do a couple little examples here. When it comes to eyes, different people have different shaped eyes. Some are more rounded and a little bit flatter on the bottom. Some tend to be a little bit more angular. But they're all roughly similar. You've got kind of almost like a football shape, but then you just want to manipulate it in some way. Now, sometimes when people start to draw eyes, they do something a little bit like this. Okay. Now, if you were a super crazy individual and you were freaking out, and you're crazy because you're freaking out, and your eye was open super wide, you might actually see the full colored portion of the eye. Typically, that's not true. When someone's eye is open, you're probably going to see, you'll see, of course, a big part of the middle, but you don't always see the bottom or the top. Okay. If someone is looking up or down, you may see part of it, but typically with an eye, you're not going to see the full circle. Okay, so just something to kind of keep in mind there. Sometimes in the corner of the eye, you can see a little bit of like where the tear duct is, and then typically with Western individuals, you can see more of the upper eyelid, how that comes over the eye. Again, everyone's is a little bit different, but it's just something to look at. Okay? All right. Moving on to noses. I'm going to come back to lips here, but with noses, what I tend to tell people is when you're starting to draw a nose, especially as a little kiddo, little children and sometimes even older people who are still, working on drawing, they kind of create a nose that looks like this. Now, my little ones, I always say, what does that look like? And they go, hee hee hee, that's a butt. Yes, it does look like a butt. So we don't want no butt noses, okay? Here's what's gonna help. If you're drawing a nose, there's a couple ways you can do it, but this is the way I instruct. Start with a smiley face, okay? I know that sounds weird, but start with a smiley face. Then you're gonna add 2 frowny faces onto that. 2 frowny faces, okay? And then from that, you're going to add an open parenthesis and then a closed parenthesis, okay? So on a nose, there's this little part that we see right down here, typically. Sometimes when people are looking at you, you could see part of the nostril, or you might even see part of the opening of the nostril. And if you do it this way, you're almost creating like little sunglasses, like mini sunglasses. And then typically you're going to see some portion of the side of the nose. Sometimes it's rounded. Sometimes you can see a little bit of like the tip of the nose. And typically there's, some kind of shading that happens underneath down here. Some people have a little bit more pronounced lip area just above the lip. But that's how it starts. And you never want to do like the triangle nose kind of thing. What happens is when you have your nose that you've created, that's going to come in with the shadowing, okay? So again, no triangle noses, okay? All right, lips. Now that you kind of have an idea of how to do a nose, here's what I suggest for lips. I always like to start with the middle. So if you start again with kind of a smiley face and a line that gently goes in either direction. So you've almost created like a bird flying through space. The upper part of the lip is going to copy this. You're going to have a slight smiley face and then a bump and a side of a mountain. Bump and then a side of the mountain. Okay? And then there's usually some kind of a lower lip. Now, different people have different lips. Okay? Some may be thinner, some may be more pronounced. Typically with men's lips, what I try to do, because this tends to look more feminine if you outline everything. You don't have to, necessarily do that. Typically with men's lips, I look at the shape and then I tend to just suggest the lower lip instead of making it fully pronounced like this. But again, different people are different. So you have to look at your individual, okay? So that's kind of some quick features here. And then again, if I were to draw a full face, I would start with more of a circular head, the sides of the face, the sides of the jaw, and then the chin. Now everyone again has different facial shapes and proportions, but if we look back here, that's really what we're getting at. And then this right here would be one section of the face. This to about the brow line would be the second. And then this to your hairline is going to be the third. All right. Now that brings us what we're going to do. So I've got a picture here that I kind of started last year. And I think you're going to recognize this fella. So here is the full picture. Okay. Got a picture of Loki right from the internet. What I did with him is I give everyone a full picture. I think that's a good idea to have for reference. And we cut it right in half. You can decide which side you want to keep and which side you want to draw. But I've gone ahead and I've cut an extra picture in half and I've glued it down to some paper. What I did was I measured this distance and then I repeated it here. I measured this distance and I repeated it here and then I drew my line. So I knew how much space I'd have to work in. Then what I tried to do was mirror what I already saw. So because he's wearing a helmet, what I started to do was kind of add in where I felt that second half of the helmet was going to be. Now I'm going a little darker here than I did the first time around. And I'm doing that so you can see it. When you go ahead to do yours, I would say go light. Okay? And I'm doing this kind of quick. I'd probably spend more time on it. Well, I know I would spend more time on it. just trying to block in about where certain facial features are going to be, clothing features, those kinds of things. Then I can get into more of the details and really look to see what shapes I'm looking for. And once I've got that down, then it's all about adding the value and smudging. Okay, I know there's a little bit of reflection here, so it's a little bit hard to see. But you want to be very careful. Really observe what you're looking at. Really observe the face, how the lines and creases of the face work together, the hair. When it comes to hair, what I usually tell folks is go ahead and shade it in first, pull out some highlights with your eraser, keep some really dark areas as well, because that always looks real smart. My example piece that I've been working on, I work on this a little bit every year. I'm going to turn this off here. There we go. You can see it a little bit better. Johnny Depp in costume. Probably recognize this. Like I said, I've been working on this a little bit every single year, and you can see that I've captured the side of his face. I'm not afraid to go real dark in areas with shading. Haven't quite finished the headband and haven't quite finished this area here, but I worked to capture the second half of every feature he has, and that is your goal. Okay, so you get to choose whomever you want. Is it someone from history? Is it someone from popular culture, an author, a musician? But the key is to get a picture of the face that is looking straight at the camera, because that's going to work best for you. Alrighty, if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm happy to look at any works you have in progress.